Hi, my name is Alessandro. I am 42 years old and in 2006 I graduated in mechanical engineering at the University of Bologna. Since then, gear design and engineering have become the focus of my working career. I currently work at Transtecno, a large company in the Bologna area that manufactures and markets gear speed reducers. We are around 350 employees with factories and offices all over the world, but the design part of both the electrical and mechanical parts is all done inside my work cell. Within the company, I hold the position of mechanical engineering manager, and my team consists of 6 people. The work is very dynamic and almost every day presents a new challenge. You would probably think that the gearbox is a trivial object and that we know everything about it by now. It seems to me that the first people to use it were the ancient Greeks. Yet, in its intrinsic simplicity, it has countless facts that make it different depending on the function and the field of application. For example, industrial, agriculture, livestock, medical and food, to mention only the most important ones. In fact, wherever there is a wave or linear movement, I assure you that there is a gearbox that must be customized or designed ad hoc. Obviously, fulfill its function, do so requiring no little maintenance and be as economical as possible. You understand that the sectors I listed earlier have demands that are diametrically opposed. Immediately after graduation, I got a job in a gearbox and gearing company. I confess that I started working there not because I was particularly attracted to the sector, but simply because it was the first serious offer I received. I had a few other interviews before that, but they always ended up with internship or apprenticeship proposal. However, I became immediately passionate about the subject, so much so that I later turned down proposals from even more emblazoned companies. I spent a whole year in the production plant working on a multitude of different machines, such as lathes, milling machine, machining centers, gear cutting and grinding machines, and even ended up in the assembly and dimensional control department. Looking back, I can definitely say that it was the most formative period of my career, and I also include my schooling, and it was also that period that made me put down roots in the world of gears. I found it very useful to start my career in a medium-sized company with a predominantly horizontal structure. This allowed me to be involved in activities outside of pure mechanical design, but entirely related to it, such as pre-sales, after-sales, production, and time and methods. The downside is that you are unlikely to make a career in a horizontal structure. If the person above you in the hierarchical ladder is the owner of the company, it will be difficult for him or her to give you the position. That is why, after about 6 years, I decided to start a new experience in a company that manufactures machines tools for gear production. The company was bigger and more structured than the first one, and the customers varied from small craftsmen to large automotive groups. In retrospect, it was a bit of a risky move as I knew absolutely nothing about how to design a machine tool, but curiosity and the desire to see new things prevailed, and so I threw myself in. In my previous job, I had got to know machine tools for gears in depth as a user, so I immediately established a relationship of reciprocal exchange of information with my new colleagues. They would help me fill in my gaps, and I would explain to them what the user expects from the machine and what they need to work on to improve it. This relationship continued for about 7 years. At a certain point, the holding that owned the company had financial difficulties and began to restructure. In this climate of uncertainty, I started to look around again and got in touch with my current employer. He was looking for an experienced designer, but above all, one with specific experience in the gearbox sector, and so I immediately seized the opportunity. After about a year, I was promoted to office manager. I strongly believe that the starting point, or at least the compulsory stage in the career of a mechanical designer, regardless of the sector in which he or she works, is the workshop. Think about it. Have you ever held a gauge in your hand during your studies? Do you know, for example, how large 100 of milliliter is in practice? Do you know how difficult it is to achieve the precision of 100 with various machine tools? And do you know how to measure it? Even if we have seen all these things in books, only first-hand experience can give you an understanding of what it entails to design what you are doing in one way rather than another, putting one tolerance over another. This awareness, I assure you, will give you an extra kick and make you a much better designer. So if you are about to enter the world of work, ask if the company has a production or assembly workshop and ask to start there. I am convinced that already at the interview it will be a distinctive element that will make you stand out from the pack. And even after you have completed this training period, continue to experience the workshop on a daily basis. There is no better satisfaction for a mechanical engineer than to see his ideas implemented and to see them work. And in case they don't work, be in the front line to try to solve the problems. Always be curious. If after a few years of work you think you already know everything you need to do your job, you will not grow professionally. At some point you have to be the one to teach your company how to do a certain thing and not the opposite. So get out of the office and visit customers, suppliers, go to the trade fairs and conferences, take a refresher course. Your future employers should be happy to accommodate you. Invest in yourself. And it is true that mechanics is not progressing as fast as other sectors, such as robotics or information technology, but it too is progressing inexorably, so you have to keep up with it to remain competitive in the market. For example, in the last few years, my sector has become completely focused on the spasmodic search of energy savings. So, where previously the focus was on price, we are now designing transmission where efficiency is the first requirement, even at the expense of price. This means new materials to look for, new lubricants to try, an alternative solution to find. And you certainly won't find them sitting in your office. As a manager, my main task is to supervise the activities of the member of my team, which means giving guidelines for the development of a certain project, intervening at a certain key moment in the design, assigning the various activities and evaluating their completion. The drafting of manuals is also an essential activity within the technical department and must take into account previous regulations. So for each project that is produced, we have to create the corresponding user and maintenance manual. As I told you before, research and development must never stop. So it is essential to assess which of the many innovations that the market presents are worthy of note, to study them in depth and test them. But the part I love most about my role is teaching the newcomers what I have learned so far in my career. It's a nice way to leave a mark, don't you think? Thanks for your attention and good luck to everyone.